recording. Here we are. All right, recording started. So thanks everybody here. What we're here to do today is talk about how to manage and create an online event. And that is event with a small e. It could be any kind of activity, any kind of group work, a rehearsal, or a meeting, or a big crazy event with a whole lot of things going on. We've had lots of examples, especially since March, of how the SCA has come together to keep our hobby alive, and through moments and experiences, short and long, online. And I'm going to run you through a lot of the things I'm seeing as common threads. We are going to talk also a little bit about unofficial versus official. That's a big deal, because we really need to know when are the times that we are absolutely relying on the SCA Inc. nonprofit organization, and when we're stepping out of that. And that line can be really hard to see when you're just doing a little Zoom call like this. So let's see. I'm going to bring up my slides and share my screen. Where are the slides? Let's see, that should be it. And, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I want the slides. There we go. Alrighty, so, big one. There we are. Alrighty, so Lucia, can you give me a thumbs up that you can see the big orange slide? Okay, great. So look, orange just happens to be my favorite.
So much orange.
Yeah, so much orange. So it's a theme. So I hope you like orange. You're going to see a lot of it. It's just my favorite color. That's all. So this is my basic recipe for an online shindig. And I'm using that word because it can mean a lot of different things. We're definitely going to talk about the difference between official and unofficial. But basically, the common threads are that you've got some content, something you want to share. That can be classes. Classes are easy, like we're doing right now. We're doing in Atlantia University all day. And you can share so many things in the scope of a class. There's also performances. Plenty of performances are happening online. Tonight, I am going to go to a show from the end of an improv class that a friend of mine is taking up in New York. And I'm so excited to see him in this show online. There's also workshops, actually learning how to do stuff. My husband's class he was just teaching was how to take rose cuttings off of a plant. And that was a little mini workshop. Meetings, I'm sure all of you have been to some kind of online meeting by now. And it's all about the content, right? When you're having a meeting at work, you're like trying to get work done, but you can also have a meeting for any purpose at all that brings people together to share their thoughts. And of course, panel discussions. Panel discussions are great if you want to get a bunch of brains together for a specific purpose to share your thoughts and then share those out to the world. Lots of stuff you can do. So content is the main thrust of any kind of event you have online. You also have content providers, the people who are bringing their brains forth. That's going to be your teachers and your performers, the working group leaders, anybody motivated enough to bring something that they have to share to the sharing space online. And I can tell you how you would do an improv show online. I've done it. It's fun. there are ways, Sharon, to do that. So I'll talk about that. You also need people who are going to listen, somebody to absorb the content. That's your audience. That can be Scadians or non-Scadians or a mix. It can also, one thing I'm finding, be really great is when you've got Scadians get together and then we rope in new people from interest groups that share our same interests. So the audience can be a lot of different things. You're also going to need online conferencing software. We're going to talk about that. Lots of options out there. Right now we're using Zoom. And the one I taught this morning, the two that University of Atlantia likes to use is Zoom and Google Meet. There's plenty that we can do with those. And I recorded my classes this morning, so you'll be able to learn more about those later on. You also need staff people. There's a handful of staff people that are going to have to do the work to organize everything together. You're also going to need software and processes for that management. It might be different from what you use to do the actual conferencing during your event. And then you've got a couple of things you're going to need, and don't assume you have them. That means things like electricity and internet access, tables, chairs, comfy chairs, air conditioning, that kind of thing. It's all necessary, and I highly recommend thinking about it ahead of time. So here is my slide on official versus unofficial. Now I can tell you, this is just the first round of exploring this. Your mileage will vary. Please do not take this as the most written in stone guidance. This is what I've seen myself from looking around a lot and asking a lot of questions. So there may be some other gold standard being developed right now. So this is what I'm going to share with you today, knowing that this is guidance, not rules. I hope all of you saw the movie where that becomes relevant. So let's talk about official. If you're doing an official event online for the SCA, you're going to be sponsored by an SCA group. That means that just like we did before the virus came around, you're going to need to go to an SCA group and say, hey, I've got an idea for an event, and here's my bid, here's my description. Would you guys sponsor me? Can we do this? And they'll say yes or no. Every group has its own requirements. Please see your Kingdom or Barony website for details. Those kinds of requirements are being developed right now. We're in the midst of it. I mean, how lucky we are to be alive right now, where we are discovering these things, working together and making new ways to stay in touch with each other through agreed upon requirements and guidelines. So you're going to have some that are requirements and some things that are going to be best practices where they ask you, your SEA group asks you, would you please do it this way? And they may not kick you out if you don't do it that way, but it's a really good idea if you still do it that way. These things are being discovered right now and worked on right now, so please do take it with a grain of salt. One of the other very clear lines in the sand is about SCA Insurance. When you hold an official event under the scope of SCA Inc., SCA Inc. has liability insurance that comes into play. I'm going to just tell you that it exists, and in today's class, that's as far as I can go. I need you to contact SCA Inc. to find out more details about that. Now that we're doing it online, that liability insurance has a whole new world to it. So I don't know enough to tell you really good ideas about it, other than you need to find out how that applies to your activities. Also, SCA copyright on names and graphics. If I say I'm going to do an event for the Kingdom of Atlantia, I am operating under their copyright to that name and the heraldry and the graphics that go with it. So I cannot take the heraldry of the Kingdom of Atlantia, put it up on my webpage and say, I'm going to do an Atlantean event. No, that is illegal. Do not do that, please. But what you can do is you can say, some of us who are friends, who live in the Kingdom of Atlantia, we're going to go do an event. And we hope our friends in Atlantia come with us. That's different. So please be very clear. Who is sponsoring your event, if anyone? If no SCA group is sponsoring you, you're unofficial. That means you do not have access to the SCA insurance. You cannot use the copyrighted name and graphics, images, and et cetera, from that are owned by that group. And also there's a thing about awards. At least in the Kingdom of Atlantia, you must have an event be official if awards are going to be given out by a king and queen or a baron and baroness. So that's something that comes with official events and does not happen with unofficial events. So on unofficial events, no group is sponsoring you. it could be a household if you wanted to, but it's a group of friends doing something on their own outside the scope of the SCA, and maybe your audience is going to be SCA members, but you are not actually sponsored. You do not have the umbrella over you. You also have no external deadlines and no requirements set out by those people. However, if you're going to speak about and share things like how to run a tournament, you'd better absolutely synchronize with the people who are official rule holders and rule managers of the folks doing that in your kingdom or in your SCA group. Okay, Lucia, what do you have?
I have a quick question. This may be outdated by current events, I'm not sure, but I seem to remember years ago that to be considered an official event, notice had to be published in a kingdom newsletter, a baronial newsletter, some official publication. Does that still stand?
It's different in every kingdom. So again, see your kingdom website for guidance.
Seek local advice. Got it.
Seek local advice. This is an international audience right here. And this is an international audience because we're online and University of Atlantia is open to absolutely anybody. I'm going to show you Kingdom of Atlantia examples. So as an example, I'll show you what happens in the Kingdom of Atlantia and say your mileage will vary. Please see local guidance. There will be people you can ask no matter where you are. Okay, so Marion there. Marion is our Kingdom MOIS. She says that's SCA wide. Great. There you have it. Whatever you do, your kingdom is going to have deadlines that work for that kingdom. And Corpora is a great place to look that up. So I want you guys to see here another page. This goes into a little more detail on that, and I'm going to try to not focus too much on what official things require because I am not an authority on it. I am really seeing the common threads that everybody can do, and then once you decide which path you want to go on, unofficial or official, then there are some really great common threads of things that will help you be successful no matter which way you're going with whatever umbrella you're under. So again, your mileage will vary per SCA group and per kingdom. Use their websites and their kingdom officers as guidance. Let's see. An example of official events is like we had Atlantia's Penzig in your backyard. That was a kingdom event and that was really awesome. A lot of people had a lot of good fun there. University of Atlantia that you're experiencing right now is an official event. Untitled, just last weekend, had their own online learning event that was called the Grand Isra. Royal University of the Mid-Realm and Royal University of Meridies are both excellent online learning institutions that are continuing to do things officially. And there was also a really neat event I heard about in a class called the Protreo War out in Caid. That was something where they normally have this event in person, and it was in May, I think. So quarantines had just gone into place, and they took about a month and figured out how to do it online. And it was a lot of fun for a lot of people. So they had a lot of classes and get-togethers, meet and greets, drinking sessions, ethereal campfires. There were all sorts of wonderful things that they did together during that week to stay connected, and that's the whole point. Now, keep in mind, if you're official, you must refrain from using the names and graphics that are copyrighted by SCA entities. And one of the really great examples I have of that is the Known World Courtesans Collegium. They had a week of great classes that happened what would normally be the second week of Penzig. And they are an unofficial entity. They're mostly Scadians. And they had a wonderful group, a team of about a dozen people actually working hard all week to manage it. And it was completely unofficial. They held classes and bardic circles, happy hours, and they did actually synchronize with some other SCA officials. So they did some things like they posted the SCA bully policy. And they said, remember, when you are at an official SCA event, mind this policy. And they also committed to letting in anybody who was an adult that was well behaved, over 18 to do it. Yes, the Facebook's group called the Honorable Clover is one of my favorite new groups that I have found just because of COVID. I did not know it was there until my life went from half online to 100% online. So go look at Facebook's group, the Honorable Clover. It is a place that has been going on for 3 years already about online learning and sharing the experience online, because you know there's plenty of silver linings about things you can do online. So let's keep going and look through some of these more slides. The next one is the Atlantia example. So these are just examples about what happens in my kingdom. You are going to have other kinds of requirements. So in this kingdom, you definitely, in order to be official, have to be on the calendar, the Atlantia calendar, and be published in the kingdom newsletter. In order to get there, you have to have your sponsoring group seneschal approve your event plan. And for this kingdom, the deadline is the 1st of the month prior to the publication of the newsletter. So the newsletter, let's say you're going for the newsletter that's published in May, you have to have April 1st be your deadline for getting in. Some other things about Atlantia, we have a really interesting, beautiful new group, website online called Virtual Atlantia, and you see the link there in the slides. You can have unofficial events that are activities like Bardic circles and classes and things. You can have them go up there on Virtual Atlantia. And the bully policy is official, but it's a really good idea to share it anyways and say this is our boundary of behavior. Now, Lord Melchior, he is our kingdom web minister, a guy who is very busy right about now, and he's been doing amazing things helping us out. One of the things he's done is written up a draft that's his suggestions for managing things for virtual events. And I took a look at it, and there's nothing in his slides and mine that conflict. They're pretty synchronous. And you're welcome to take a look at that. The link is there in the slides. And also, you'll see one of our people joining us here is Lady Mary in the red. She's our Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences. She has some guidance in there also for competitions. So I'm not going to really touch on A&S competitions today, but she's got some guidance in that document, so you might find that helpful. So let's move on to some more stuff. Internet safety. Okay, sorry, I just switched over to the chat box, then it took over my screen. And it does it again. Why is it doing that? Okay, please stop and, okay, there we go.
No, Sophie, I'm still seeing the internet safety, so you don't have chat.
Okay, good. It's just me. All right, I'm glad it's just me. All right, so the chat box is now screened in. So internet safety is very important, and it's hard to manage nowadays. The key piece I'm going to talk about today is the difference between your link and your password to your link. This becomes really clear in Zoom. Zoom is great about keeping separate your password in a place where you can edit it if you want to edit it to something custom where you'll remember it. And you also can use Zoom to embed your password into the URL that's the link to your room. Be careful when your password is being shared publicly. If your link includes an embedded password and you share it publicly in some Facebook group, then that allows anybody at all who has the link to get right in, and they might be a bad apple. They're generally not going to include Dr. Evil in their name. They're generally not going to show up as a troublemaker immediately. So even when you use waiting rooms, unless they put in their name, I'm someone who likes to cause trouble, you're not going to know until the trouble happens. So managing your password becomes really important. So for an example, here in Atlantia University, you all signed up as students and you got emails for the link. And so I included the embedded password link into the emails that you got from Atlantia University. I did not publish those links anywhere else. Now, in other events I've seen, like I think they did this with Antier's Grand Ithra, we would offer the link without the embedded password from Zoom. And then the password was the same for everything throughout the event, but it was published in a different place. So it was published on the website that the password was something like sun, I want to say, or sunny day, something like that. And when your password is separate in a separate place and your link is published in another place, that creates the safety that keeps people out, because they'll have to do a lot of research to figure out the both of them. And so what folks do when they're the bored, strange, bad apples that just don't have anything better to do than bother people on Zoom calls, then they're doing automatic searches throughout the internet looking for these things. So they're not generally going to do that. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. I got to tell you, Henry, I'm not really understanding what you're saying there, so we're going to have to save your questions until the end. So Zoom conference rooms do a really good job of allowing you to keep separate your link and your password. Other things you can do is when you have the waiting room, you can keep somebody in there until you're ready to let them in and you know who they are. And if you don't, then leave them in there. If you really know who's supposed to come in and there's a strange name that comes out and you leave them in the waiting room, that's fine. Leave them there. You can also, if they come in and you're not really sure who they are, you can put them in a breakout room and let them sit there and cool their heels if you're not really sure. And then you can go into that breakout room and say, who are you? What are you doing? So you can do the waiting room thing as they come on in. You can also, on Zoom, you can put them back in the waiting room. You can also, in some platforms that have breakout rooms, put them into the breakout room and let them sit there and then go in and ask them, who are you? Why are you here? So those are easy things that you can use to keep things safe. Also the remove button. Know where the remove button is to remove a user. And also be very careful about enabling or disabling their microphones and cameras. So you can do all of that to keep everybody safe. All right, I'm gonna try to get through a lot of slides the next little while. So let's see, accessibility and the balance between safety and convenience. The accessibility is important, that you try to not rely on software programs that will require a person to create an account or to buy something, buy a paid account. There's a number of great platforms out there. I use one called Adobe Connect, and that absolutely requires a lot of, some kind of expensive license. So I would say keep it to things that are accessible to everyone. And keep in mind, not everybody's on Facebook. Email is really the only ubiquitous platform we have where everyone is going to have equal access to it. And then even then, you have to keep in mind some folks don't have regular access to their email, and they're going to have it at certain times. Then there's the balance between safety and convenience. If you make things really easy for your users, they're going to be easy for the bad apples. So when you have a restriction put on your users, like maintaining use of a password, that means it's going to be less easy for them, but it will be less easy for the bad apples as well. That means it's safer for your users. You are going to have a balance where you've got to manage convenience against safety, and it will be up to you who are managing your event where you want to draw that line. Now again, if it's official and you've got other people involved, officers that are telling you what you have to do to be under an SCA group in particular, you have to follow their guidance for where that balance is. When you're on your own and it's unofficial, then you can absolutely decide where you want to put it, decide where that's going to be. It is up to you to decide where you want that balance. Now we're going to talk about making it real. I'm going to present to you an idea of what an online event could be like, and it's unofficial, absolutely and completely and totally unofficial. I finally get to be in charge! I'm so excited! Yeah, okay, Marvin, you're going to have to do some typing now. What? I didn't know I was going to have to work. Yes, you're going to have to work, Marvin. This is very important. You have got to work. I'm so excited. I get to run my first event. This is great. Yeah, get to typing, Marvin. So Marvin here is a friend of mine that I've had for a lot of years, and Marvin has always wanted to run his own event, and now he gets the chance. And so what we're going to talk about is what it could look like to have a generally enthusiastic person putting an event together online that has its own content and audience and the content providers, and he's going to do his best with what he has. So content providers, I'm sorry, the name of this is the, what did we call it, Marvin? Marvin Sofiovich's Worldwide Online Historic Puppetry Festival. So you can tell we're going to have some audience that could be part of the SCA, because historic puppetry is something some people in the SCA like to do, and then also some people outside. So content will be performances in classes, panel discussions, and meeting each other. And the content provider is going to be pretty much Marvin's friends from all over the world. So here's your event staff. You got to be careful. Some of these guys are kind of young and they don't really understand everything about the world. So they're going to try. They're learning.
I'm an unexpected volunteer.
So, yeah. So what we have is a staff of varying levels of skill, and Marvin is going to ask them to do work for each of these different sections of planning their event. So Coco the Wonder Dragon is our communications director. Archimedes is going to handle the technical stuff. And in online life, we certainly do have a lot more work for these people to do. And please do keep in mind that your friendly neighborhood web minister and web team is probably working really, really hard right now, trying to keep their Kingdom and other SCA groups connected as best they can. So they've got a lot of work to do. Also, social media officers, they're working really hard. A lot of these folks, thought they were going to be spending a certain amount of time in their hobby, and now they're maxing that out. So please do reach out to them, say thank you, and see if they know somebody who's not as busy as they are that has similar skills that might step up for your particular event, and try to not rely too much on the people who are already maxed out. That's why I volunteered my sister Lucia. She's never busy. Now let's talk about software. Software is everywhere. You're going to need software and the processes to use it in order to keep people connected. Zoom, what we're using right now, is clearly very popular. That's because it's really easy, and they have a free version that's super, super useful. Also, Google Meet is a program a lot of folks have been getting a lot of work out of today here at University of Atlantia. Zoom and Google Meet are the two platforms that we're suggesting. We do absolutely leave it up to the teacher what they want to use, what they are most comfortable using in producing their classes. So please do go with what works for you. I can also mention that Google has Hangouts, which is still there. What happened is back in the spring when we all went onto quarantine and our lives went 100% online, Google Meet was released. It used to be just a G Suite, a paid program. And now it's available at the end of September. I want to warn you, at the end of September, the unlimited time we've had on Google Meet so far will now be limited to 1 hour. So free, regular old accounts on Google that we've all been using with Gmail and chat and Google Maps and all those good fun things. Google Meet is still going to be on that menu of options you have available. You'll be able to have 100 people on a Google Meet room for an hour. That's the limit that you're just now going to have at the end of September 30th. but you'll still get to use Meet. So Meet and Hangouts are similar. They're very similar, and you certainly can do a lot with either one. Google Meet has an interesting feature for closed captioning. That's something that comes up. And in order to actually compare the two of them, you're going to have to do kind of a bit of a deep dive. I've taught classes in both Hangouts and Meet and Zoom, so I can certainly offer you the links to those recordings. You can also find a bajillion other people besides me who have done those kinds of classes, and those recordings are on YouTube everywhere. I would also recommend when you're doing search for these various platforms, please do look at the company that is providing the software and look there for the answers. YouTubers all over the place are doing a great service to a lot of us by helping to give us the story and show us the answers to questions, but they're not paid employees by these companies. So when you have questions about Zoom, go to zoom.us and look at the knowledge base that's in there. Articles will answer all of your questions. So you can certainly go to that company to get the questions answered. So Zoom and Google have plenty of help features available everywhere. So go look at those. Now, other online venues that you can explore are all out there. I use WebEx and GoToMeeting and Adobe Connect in my day job. There's a million more out there. Zoom and Google tend to be really easily accessible and easy to understand. So I would suggest if you're starting from scratch, start there. And if you are already really, really familiar with them, then do a little search online for comparison YouTube videos so that you can see somebody else compare what you're looking at. Now, in this slide, what I'm telling you is that Marvin and his staff are choosing to use some online venues provided by them, their staff, the event, and some of them are going to be provided by the content providers. So Marvin and his staff have decided to use a mix of things. He's very inspired by University of Atlantia and the great decisions they have made. So that's pretty much how we do it here. Software and processes for internal coordination. That's a whole nother ball of wax. When you have conferencing software you're using to present your content to the audience, like we're doing right now here in Zoom, you have to have something separate to talk to your staff. So you might choose Facebook Messenger because everybody's on it. You might choose a regular phone chat group because all of your staff are on it. But make sure you have something separate that is not the same as what you're producing, what you're using to produce for your audience. So what Marvin and his team is doing is they're using Facebook Messenger because all of them are on Facebook. However, Marvin does not like to type very much. I hate typing. I only have one hand to do it with. Yeah, Marvin hates typing. So what he's going to do is do a little bit of instant messaging, but for his team, anything that's significant is going to be done over email. So they're going to have a Google group for email. Google Groups is great. It's been there for years and years and years. You can take a list of emails, put it into a Google group, and voila, you've got yourself a listserv. Also, Google Drive. This is a great way to share your documents and keep your documents organized as a group. You can take Google Drive folders and assign a Google group to be the permission getting into those Drive folders, and then you don't have to take individual people and assign them one at a time to all those different folders. Take your one Google group, assign it to the folder, and boom, everybody in that group has access. By the way, that's how I managed things for the SCA 50-year Performing Arts Department, and it worked out great. I'm a big Google fan, as you might have seen, and sometimes Marvin and I argue about it. It's not perfect. I know it's not perfect, Marvin. But this here Pixel phone that I like to use allows me access to all those Google resources really quick and easy. So if you're a Google believer, you can do that. There are also, I want to say, kind of a similar way that you can do that on Apple products. Apple products also talk to each other a lot. So that's an easy thing to do. Okay, Henry's bringing up a topic I do want to talk about for a second, and that's when you don't have Internet access. That's absolutely true. You have got some areas of the world that are not yet covered by cell towers and really fast internet access. So when that happens, you've got to talk to those folks about what resources do they use? What resources are going to work for the folks that live far away? And you can't make any assumptions about how they live and what their stuff is. So you got to ask. So at that point, I'm going to say, you know, my guidance kind of ends there. And you've got to look at what happens with each person. Now, I'm going to put out there just one other thing about some new software you guys might have heard of. Slack and MS Teams, WhatsApp, and Google Chat. Those are all really cool software programs that you can use to keep a team together, to keep your team organized. Now, Slack has a free option, and you might try that. I just signed up for a free Slack account, and I started adding some emails to it for some friends, and we might stay in touch there. MS Teams is something I use at work a lot, and I adore it. What's good about it is this. As long as everyone's watching the same program, as long as everybody's watching the same interface, I can do a private message or grab a few people together and make a thread or put in a channel or share documents or links or have an online screen-oriented meeting all in the same program. The key is everybody has to be in the same boat. You cannot have people spread into, you know, like 5 people on Slack and 6 people on Teams doesn't work. And they have to be mindful to watch it. So all the time during the day, during the workday, me and my team are looking at Microsoft Teams and we're seeing things and we get pinged when stuff happens. So that works great. If your team, your event team, decides they're going to use Slack, that's great. But everybody's in. I mean, like, have a ceremony and say, like, all right, we are now officially in Slack, and get everybody in there. It's all or nothing. It only works if you've got everybody together. Okay. That looks great. I cannot pronounce your name, guy that starts with an A from Outlands. That looks great. Yeah, Discord is cool. You can use Discord. You have to get an account to use Discord. I haven't really looked at it myself. Some people have a good experience. Some people don't. I would encourage you to give it a try. I haven't had enough experience to recommend it one way or the other yet. So give it a try. We'll do that. Now I got to finish up my slides really quickly. Promoting the event is separate, yet another separate element. And there is one thing I recommend keeping above all else. Make sure you have a single gold standard for the publication of all of your data. That's going to be likely a website. That if you're working with in the official realm with an SCA group, they already have their websites, and that's great. But if you're on your own, you're going to need to build a website. You can do that still for free through Google Sites. But if you want, you could also stick with Facebook. Facebook can allow you to make a page, which is separate from a group. A page allows an entity to publish what they want and still have static links to all that information. That can work out really great, especially if your team is all on Facebook and you're all using Facebook Messenger to talk to each other. That can be awesome. But take a look at the choices you have for your team and where their attention is. So make sure that you have a single static location. And when I say static, I'm talking about that's different from social media. You'll notice that when you saw something on Facebook, it often becomes difficult to find it again. You don't want that for your event. You want to have some place online you can link to directly with all the information you need for the event. There was a word that Mistress Adriana told us about, authority. Oh, I'm kicking myself for not remembering it. There's a word that includes authority for...
Authority control.
Thank you. Super. Whoever that was. Authority control is great. I use the term gold standard to say that it is the place where you have the authority to say this is our rule about a thing, or this is what we're saying about a thing. So there you have it. Software processes for connecting the content providers to the staff. So when you were here in University of Atlantia, you got emails pretty much from the staff to the teachers. So you've got to find out a way. How are you going to do that? Email is ubiquitous and pretty much the only single ubiquitous thing we have. Google has a lot of options for you. Google Forms is really easy and allows you to put out a form with answering questions and give it to certain people. You can also continue to use that to keep people communicating back and forth. Establishing deadline. Yeah, deadlines are going to be up to you. There are a million different ways to set up your deadlines that depends on work days or weekends, depending on what works for your staff. Okay, software providers connecting the audience to the event. When you have your audience coming from all sorts of different places, SCA and not SCA, and special interest groups and across the world, posting your instructions on your gold standard location website for how they're going to connect to either the Zoom rooms or the Google Meet rooms, or if they need to buy tickets through Eventbrite or something like that. Put all of that on your gold standard website and instruct them that is where to look to find out how to connect the audience to the content of the event. Alrighty, we're getting to the end here. All right, here we go. Communication is always tough. We slog through that in the SCA a lot. Have somebody decide how often you're going to talk to each other. I was on an event team once where we had a year to plan the event, and we had monthly conference calls using freeconferencecall.com. That was great. It was just a phone call. We all checked in and said, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is what you're doing. And it worked on a monthly basis. You can bet that Protreo wore out in Kaid that they put together in a month. They were probably having conference calls pretty often. So your mileage will vary. Marvin and his team decided they're going to have a weekly Zoom call to synchronize their team every week and do a daily check-in on the chat. You have other choices that you can go with depending on what your team wants. And anybody who's involved in software development will by now have heard of the Agile Cycle, where you have an Agile stand-up meeting in the morning where everyone stands up. They do not get comfortable in a chair. They stand up and look at each other and say, this is what I accomplished yesterday. This is what I'm accomplishing today. And this is what I'm going to accomplish tomorrow. That's a great idea for an event management team. So you could try a quick update on text once a day. You don't have to stand or sit, doesn't matter. But check in with each other every day to say what you're doing. Let's see, when to post promotion venues. So when you have your venues set up for what you're gonna produce to the people, when the audience is supposed to pay attention, earlier is always better no matter what. Always, you can always say, we should have done that earlier. Every day, it's always earlier. So at least at the very time you know that it's safe to say we're doing it, put out a save the date. And then my very basic recommendation is set up a calendar for yourselves and plan it out when you're going to make those messages happen. Now, a couple last things, what to post. Now, this is where I was channeling my sister, Lucia, who's really excellent at scribing. And I want to say that every time I've managed events, I want to start with a logo. And if you are on the official side and working with SCA groups, then consider what group logo, what the group heraldry is. But if you're not, if you're in the unofficial zone where Marvin and his team are, then make yourself a little logo, even if it's just a little squiggly thing. Something that's visual, because when you put that visual on your website and say, this is our squiggly thing for the gold standard website, then everything that has that online, your users will see. And it helps them to keep it consistent. It helps the users to see your messaging as consistent. Canva.com is a really good, service that has a free account that will allow you to use templates and build graphics that work well on social media platforms. They have templates for all the various social media platforms. and they will allow you to do a lot with very little on their free account. And then you can pay more if you wish to use their more awesome features. I would suggest not letting Marvin draw everything because he's not really that good an artist. I am so. No, really, go where your strengths are, Marvin. It's important. Now, once you're online, make sure to be engaging. Something that will actually ask people questions and encourage them to make an answer, like name your favorite puppet, rather than just come see our puppet show, will be much more engaging. And invite your content providers, your teachers, your performers to use their own networks to gather the audience. And my last message here is think outside the box. Think outside the box and find ways to stay connected. That's my main message for you today. And I'm going to give you the link to get all of these slides. The idea is we're stuck at home. We don't get to do the same stuff that we normally do. And so when you find ways to enjoy your hobbies online, whether it's official or unofficial, whether you're doing it in a tiny little group of, crazy puppets, or you're doing it with your best friends, or you got 20 people from all across the world together for a great idea, however you do it, keep doing it and think outside the box. Find creative ways, because right now, innovation is the way we survive. It's a pandemic, we're in trouble, so we got to find ways to be positive and keep each other connected somehow. So please let me help you if you would like to do some of that. I've got a whole bunch of ideas I pulled together into these slides, and I guarantee you the next time I teach this class, it's going to be different. So I tried to take a look at the chat as it was going through and note some things. Thank you for putting all your good idea fairies to work. And I'll be able to look through the chat box later for anything that I can add to this. So we're coming up to the end of the hour, and you guys have a tea break coming up from 4 o'clock to 4:30 with your Atlantia University experience. So I'll just take a deep breath there and see if you have any questions you want to talk about here in the in this class. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you guys enjoy my email, and I'm going to get you a copy of my, I'm going to put in the link for my, the slides in my Google Drive in just a second here. So here's my email address. Here's my personal email address, orangesophie Orange Sophie is at gmail.com. That's the one I'd like you to use for this. And let me go get the link to the, here we go. Here's the link again. And I'm coming back to Zoom to the chat box. And here is the link for all those slides. So the slides there are in a PDF format. So they're not slides to take apart, and please do keep in touch. My email and stuff and everything is on those slides as well. So that was a lot of stuff to get out. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and thank you for really staying in touch. Thank you for coming to my event. I will have the Puppetry Symposium sometime next year. It'll be great fun. We'll do puppets everywhere. Yay! So Marvin will look forward to seeing you online later as well. He really does like to have fun online. Yeah, you can take a break now. Go have some tea. Okay. Alrighty. So I am going to watch everybody as they file out of the room, and I'm watching the chat box in case anybody has any final questions. Hey, Verhan, do you have a demo? What's this demo about? Oh, you're in the very early phase of planning an event, Jean. That's great. Please keep it up. Please do that. Thank you for your work on that. I really appreciate it. I'm interested in what the demo is.
Well, we teamed up with our local library. Hang on. I gotta lower my mic. We teamed up with our local library to do a demo on, they have a series called Thursday Night on the Lawn. And so we were going to do a traditional demo, the sort of SCA Montessori school, set up the turn shoemakers and the this and the that, and have the fighters over in the corner and some people dance, all that stuff. But then when COVID happened, we couldn't do that. So we worked it out with the events librarian to do it virtually, and it was actually fabulous because it allowed us to do some things that we wouldn't have been able to do on the lawn of the library, like dig a fire pit. And worked with them, and they wanted to do a format of 1 hour long, 3 different topics. So most of the folks in our household have Viking personas. So we did a 10th century family style dinner evening with the Vikings. And where several of us in our small household have sort of been bubbled together. So we were able to go to, I have a piece of land. We went out in the woods and I put up my big 12-foot by 12-foot Viking A-frame tent, and we dug a fire pit and put up all of our iron cooking equipment and put up a day shade with trestle tables and benches underneath. And we did a 20-minute segment on cooking. What would they have had for dinner and how would they have cooked it? A 20-minute section on simple handwork textiles, including the whipcording and tablet weaving and a little finger loop. No, I didn't do finger loop braiding. And the third section was games. Played some Neftoffel, played the keep your hand on the chest and whack each other with the bag when you're blindfolded game, and just the kind of thing that a Viking family might spend the evening that way.
That's cool.
And
so you did this in partnership with the library? And so did the library then sort of promote your event?
They did, and we had, there were 21 viewers.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Which the library was thrilled with. They're not getting that many viewers. So a couple of them were Scadians, and I'm the chatelaine of our local group. We got 4 inquiries to join the group via Facebook, which is in the COVID time, recruitment and retention has been difficult. So that's 4 new families that we can then reach out to. And the library was so thrilled. They don't usually have the same people more frequently than every 6 months, but Shane has said he'll be in touch with me if we can change like the time period. So instead of 10th century Viking family dinner, we can do 14th century getting ready for the ball. We include cosmetics, getting sewn into your dress, and a little bit of dancing. And then we can do another one on Commedia dell'arte, having to do with mask making, theatrical improvisation, and scurrilous poetry writing or something. And as long as we keep changing our time, isn't that awesome? And being able to keep it an hour, cover 3 topics, keep it time period focused, and get different presenters, 3 or 4 people who share a time period and an interest to present 3 different topics. And the library is thrilled with us. We're thrilled with the library. And they set up all the technology. It was via their Zoom account.
Oh, nice.
And they did a big press release to the paper. We were on the front page of the local newspaper. It was awesome.
Amazing.
It was really, really fabulous.
Oh my God, I love that. So your template, if I can call it a template, was to get an hour and 3 topics and 3 or 4 or 5 people together, and you set up your computer or your webcam in front of your little setup in the woods.
Well, we had one guy there just on a laptop so he could read the chat bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had one guy who was our cameraman and he used his phone.
There you go.
So he was able to like zoom in on my hands while I was doing whipcording. He was able to zoom in on the pieces of cast iron that were in the fire, but he was also able to pan out and give you a view of the scope of our little encampment. And it was so fabulous for us because it was like a little mini event in August in the woods when we were missing Penzic. And
I bet.
It was
so
fabulous
good.
for us. People were thrilled. The library wants us back. It's going to become our new demo format for the duration of the duration of the pandemic, and possibly after.
You could do it after the pandemic. You just have more people.
That's right. And I was thinking about this too, as talking about how to arrange symposia or universities. We're already like individuals in our homes. It doesn't take anything as long as you have internet access. You can be outdoors. You can do garden walks. And you said your husband is teaching roses right now out in the yard. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And doing it with small groups of people as like little mini demos. Yeah.
I love this. Hey, have you written this up in some sort of have you written it up in some sort of a newsletter?
I haven't yet. We have a very, 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 I can't put too many varies on this, inactive shire.
Okay.
Our new seneschal, and I'm the new chatelaine, and our new knight marshal, all the new officers come from our small household, which is very active as opposed to our inactive shire. So we're now, we had a coup and we have taken over the shire, and then COVID hit. So our blossoming has been somewhat stunted, although we're making progress, and we have ideas for how
Would you be willing to let me write up just a little tiny blurb for my newsletter because it's just such a good idea?
I'd be happy to write it for you. I'm going to do a write up. I'm from the East. And I'm going to do a write-up of this with my next Chatelaines report, which is coming by the middle of this month. I can copy you on the write-up.
I would love to get that. It's just a beautiful,
and then I don't know what my
bite-size idea, for like doing a little bit during this weird time that also would work later on. And it's all about that connection. Take what you have and connect with people out in the world.
And connecting with each other in ways that we really miss. Yeah. So there were 6 of us out in the woods, which is, according to our state and our kingdom, a safe number. So we were able to be unmasked. We were outdoors. And you should go look at the YouTube video. It was just kind of a funny thing.
I will absolutely do that.
And I have your email address here in the, where is it? Sophia.
Orange Sophie? It should be orangesophie@gmail.com.
I'm looking. I'll just write it down.
Here, let me just put it in there again. Orange Sophie.
No, because I'll lose this. I'll lose the tab or something. Orange Sophie, PHIE at email.
Yeah.
.com. I will do a write-up for my regional chatelaine and kingdom chatelaine and put it in my report, and then I will copy it to you.
Thank you so much. And do I call your name Vertandi? Vertandi. All right, great. Vertandi, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's brilliant. And a lot of people could benefit from learning how to do it that way. Bite-sized chunk, repeatable, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was a SMART goal, and we achieved it.
It is! Smart goal! Brilliant. I wish my sister were here to hear it. She was...
Yeah, I was in her class just before I was in your class.
Oh, good. Yeah, my sister has a lot in her brain, and
Yeah, I can tell.
I told her people would like that class if she put it together.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's I have a bachelor's degree in education, so all of that was yeah. And I say that I started out to get a bachelor's degree in education, and my last semester it occurred to me that I didn't actually want to be a teacher, and so I didn't do the student teaching.
Wow.
Instead, I switched my major to straight up English. So my bachelor's degree actually is in how to write a 5-paragraph essay. I have a bachelor's degree in writing book reports, and all of the coursework to teach other people how to write book reports. But anyway, I have trying to go to my next class. I will email you the write-up that I make for my chatelaine.
Thank you.
Include all the links and everything so you can send it out to everybody.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Great.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Have a lovely evening.
You too.
Bye.
So hey, Jean, are you there still? Jean, I think you were starting to just early phase of planning an online event. I'd love to hear about that. Do you have a microphone you can use? Here we go. We're asked to unmute. I would love to see what you got. Oh, not able to use the audio. Bummer. Okay, so we're just going to use text. That's fine. I mean, I can talk at you, and you have a toddler and a newborn. That's a lot at home, Mom. That's a lot. You are doing a lot there. So I'd love to know if you can type in there just a little bit about the event and what your, what your hopes and purpose is, what you're trying to achieve. And I'd love to see what I could do to help. Virtual's Queen's Prize, great. Queens are often inspiring. Inspiring queens are great. So, like the queen gives a prize for some kind of competition, I guess, or like doing a whole bunch of things, see who's going to be the most awesome one. Aha! Haven't done this in North Shield. New concept, excellent. Okay, so an A&S kind of competition. Okay. Oh, replace the Kingdom A&S. Oh. All right. Oh, because it for nowadays. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Just for this time of year. Listen to me like it's a season. Super. So. So you think, is this going to be like a one-day competition where people bring their stuff and show it off for a day? Oh, looking for some tips. Okay. So, yeah, online galleries are great. Let me Google Drive is also really good when it comes to collecting pictures. People on Facebook do tend to kind of like stay on Facebook. And so you could do a lot of great collecting of those pictures on Facebook and then maybe download them and load them up to a Google Drive that can be made public. So the Google Drive I was sharing that has my handouts in it, it's super easy to set up a Gmail account and then just, upload everything into this publicly available Google Drive folder. It's just one way to do it. I love WordPress. WordPress is cool. In fact, I have my own website, is a WordPress site. And it does a lot of great things, but it's not super easy when it comes to just sharing a lot of photos. Oh, it's being a punk right now. Ooh, so sorry. You know, WordPress is super. And in fact, I love WordPress for things like that gold standard I was talking about, the managed authority or something, whatever that word was. The authority, that's a static web page where all of your information is, and then your social media stuff points to that. Okay, you see, I need to call and get the photo upload function fixed. Yeah. If you've got a widget in your WordPress site that allows the public, anybody, to upload a picture, that's great. That's adorable. That's beautiful. Here's one thing that you could try. You could just tell people generate their pictures however they do. Make sure to generate their pictures, but here's a tip: put in the file name of their picture something consistent. Like, figure out what you need from them, like their name and date and topic or something like that, and put that in the file, and then make it a thing that will allow you to keep all those pictures organized by just their file name. And then wherever you organize them, you'll have an easier time. Let's see, I need to go to that. No, oh, you can't upload photos. You won't be using WordPress for the event. Okay, alrighty. You know, let's see. I would say that pictures are a great an easy thing to generate. You know, people can use their phones so much now to take pictures of whatever they want to take and then submit it to you. I think the hard part you're gonna find is just finding a way to present it to the people. But it is so worth it because people love seeing their work up online somewhere. If they've got their own, you know, their own picture of their stuff, seeing it as part of a community, that's a beautiful thing. So I love the idea that you're doing it. That's the kind of thing that I would say is, you know, good for a community to see other people come together. Let's see. And, you know, in North Shield, you guys have a lot of bards. You guys have Darian. Isn't Darian one of yours? Darian is a famous bard, friend of my sister's, friend of mine. And I would imagine getting some music to go along with your presentation of pictures could be really nice. That'd be lovely. Yeah, Darian's a local. Good. Yeah, tell him I said hi, because Darian, oh, you know my sister. Great. Awesome. Good. All right, good. And you know, my sister's also very good at finding inspirational ways to keep people connected. So let's see, so your A&S competition, or am I right in saying it's a competition? You said Queen's Prize. I kind of assumed that it would be some kind of a competition. No real competition, so no like rubric and requirements. Oh, the queen picks the favorite. That's awesome. That's a great way to do it. So easy. So easy. No beans and things and counting numbers. Just say, you know, make the queen pick. Okay, good. Some fun categories. Populous bean count based on likes. That's awesome. Oh, that's beautiful. Definitely keep that up. That's awesome. So that might be something where you find it's Facebook restricted, so your only audience there is Facebook. So you might consider finding a way for people to make a vote if it's not on Facebook. I think let's see, there was no, I don't remember the widget. There was a widget that I knew of on WordPress, but it was probably long ago, that would allow a user to like it. But I think they also had to have a WordPress account, so they had to be logged in. I'm trying to remember that. But you can certainly find a way to, you know, even just say, if you're not on Facebook, use this email and tell us what your vote is. Something like that, just to make it more accessible to everybody, even the non-Facebookers. Because that is a population. We have a population of non-Facebookers. Yeah. Yeah. Google Forms is great. I love Google Forms. Absolutely. That's super. And I assume since you're working with North Shield, that this would, and the Queen, that this would be an official kind of activity, and the this would be an official kind of activity. So you'd probably be able to use the web pages for North Shield and your local groups to post your intention out there to people to say, we're going to have this Queen's Prize. It's going to be a Queen's Picks the Best for contest. The populace vote would vote on Facebook with likes, but have this Google form as well, or something like that. That could be really good. I like that. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's happening nowadays. The majesties and the officers, they're all looking at each other saying, what do we need for making things official? It's a path of discovery right now. So if you do manage to get them to come up with what they need for it to be an official activity, then great. If you need it to be unofficial, it can still happen. The thing is, you just gotta avoid using terms like, this is the North Shield Queen's Prize thingy. It's more like, friends of North Shield, come together and show us your stuff. Our Queen may come and pick her favorite of yours. Something like that. You just got to be careful about your language to make sure you're not speaking in the voice that is official for your SEA group, if it's an unofficial thing. So there's a line in the sand. Hard to figure it out right now, but it's happening. It is happening right now. Awesome. So I tell you what, I do have to wrap up soon because I've got a 4:30 class of my own. Yeah, things are really mushy, Jane. They really are. They're very mushy and all of that. So I wanted to check in. We also have another person, Kiar Ingenfak, and I'm butchering that, I'm sure. But please do let me know if you've got any questions, anything else I can help you with. Otherwise, I'm going to shut down the Zoom room and start setting up for the next one. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you for your work.